Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Pro Revenge. In today's episode, Revenge of the Highway Construction Boss. Fate helped me get back at my brother. The Great Arby's Avalanche. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Revenge of the Highway Construction Boss. First things first, this is a story that an old friend/coworker of mine told me years ago. This friend has since passed away, R.I.P. Greg, so I am unable to go back to him to get more details. Greg's family lived near Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Greg's dad was in construction, working as a job site foreman, and Calgary was going through an oil boom in the 1980s, and new roads and highways needed to be built. The practice at the time, probably still is, was to get expensive surveyors to lay out the path for the road at the start of the project, and the path was marked with wooden stakes in the ground. These roads were going through some of the grasslands on Calgary's outskirts, and good progress was being made on the road in question. Then one morning, the crew got to the job site and found that all of the stakes had been knocked over. Calgary had, maybe still has, its fair share of yahoos and pickup trucks who like to cause trouble, so from the tire tracks they figured that during the night someone had found the job site, noticed the stakes, and decided it would be fun to drive over all of them. I suppose today's yahoos and pickups would be deterred by cheaper surveillance cameras, but this was 30 to 35 years ago. Greg's dad was fuming, but he had to call the surveyors back in to do the layout again before they could continue. A few nights later, the same thing happened again. They arrived at the site and found all of the stakes knocked out again. Another call to the surveyor's office later, they had the road mapped again. But Greg's dad had a plan. Construction sites can have a lot of rebar, and other types of iron and other metals lying around. They also have lots of heavy equipment for applying force to things. After the stakes were mapped out for the third time, Greg's dad got a crew together to drive an 8-foot-long piece of iron, vertically, into the ground directly behind one of the stakes near the end of the road layout, with the top of the iron in line with the top of the stake. Then he waited. A small number of days later, he got to the job site, and found a wrecked pickup truck in the field along the road's path. Its oil pan and other undercarriage components had been ripped off by the metal post that was protruding from the ground. They had signs all around the site indicating that unauthorized vehicles were prohibited, entering was at your own risk, etc., so they were covered from a legal standpoint. With the truck as evidence, they were able to find its owner, and have him charged with trespassing, destruction of property, mischief, and anything else that they could make stick. Fate helped me get back at my brother. I originally posted this in 2 parts as it was unfolding on r/relationship_advice, and a couple people told me to post it here. I didn't know this sub existed, but I'm happy it does. So, my brother, 23M, we're twins, is so mean. He's constantly doing messed up stuff to me, 23F, but the worst thing happened 5 years ago. I got my first boyfriend when I was 18 and a senior in high school. I know we were young, but I really loved him. We'd been dating for 10 months when my brother randomly decided, for literally no reason at all, to make up a story about how he caught me cheating and tell it to my boyfriend. He planned it all out, he came up with details, he made it sound real. And because he's such a scarily good liar and a master manipulator, my boyfriend believed him. No matter what I said or did to prove it wasn't true, he believed my brother over me. My brother kept up with his act the entire time, and refused to admit he was lying. At one point I thought I'd finally gotten my boyfriend to believe me, but then he broke up with me a few months later and confessed it was because he was still convinced I'd cheated on him, and he couldn't move past it. He said, "The worst part is that you won't just tell me the truth, and not to sound dramatic, but that still haunts me. I want to cry every time I think about it." And I still miss him to this day. Also, I think it's important to note that my brother has never once apologized. He's so insanely mean that he just thinks it's funny. I even asked him once if he'd consider hitting my ex up and telling him the truth for my peace of mind, and he just laughed at me. I never got over what my brother did, and I always told myself I was gonna do the exact same thing to him one day. He's dated several girls since high school, but he'd never been serious enough about any of them for me to consider tricking them. I knew it wouldn't hurt him like he hurt me if I just tricked one of his flings or something. But he finally got his first serious girlfriend last year, and after thinking about it for a long time I decided I was gonna do it. We live in different places now, so I had to do it all online. I used a different method than he did. I contacted his girlfriend pretending to be the girl he'd been cheating with. I made up an elaborate detailed story like he did to me, and even photoshopped proof and stuff. I made my story even more believable than he made his. And exactly like he did to me, I went as far as denying it even to him because I knew he might use my texts/calls to prove to his girlfriend that it isn't true. He knew I was behind it though, solely because the girl I made up doesn't exist, and there's no one else that would do this. But I kept denying it. His girlfriend wholeheartedly believed me, and my brother kept calling and texting me and begging me to give it up, even though I still wouldn't admit it was me. He was manipulating me and arguing that it's different because I was younger when he did it to me and my relationship wasn't serious. But my relationship was serious, and like I said, I still miss my ex. My brother really messed me up. I have empathy though, he doesn't, and I was starting to feel bad for his girlfriend because she's innocent. I was kind of regretting everything and thinking that maybe I should tell his girlfriend the truth, for her sake, not his. But then, his girlfriend asked me a question which led to her admitting that she's been suspicious of him for a long time, so I pried a little bit and encouraged her to look through his phone. She told me she couldn't because she didn't know the passcode, and he wouldn't give her access to it. I guessed a few passcodes I thought it could be and gave them to her under the guise of seeing it once, but not being sure which one I'd seen. That was kind of dumb, but I couldn't think of anything else to say, and she didn't question it. She got in because it ended up being the same one he's had since 2012 when our dad got us iPhones, and made us use the same passcode. Idiot. Anyway, lo and behold, it turns out my brother actually cheated on her, and my setup was the reason she found out. He's been talking to and hooking up with multiple girls for pretty much the entirety of their relationship. I'm not surprised, because he's a terrible person and cheating seems right up his alley, but I'm shocked at the same time. I literally can't believe things worked out this perfectly. It feels like a dream or something. The universe loves me. I hate to revel in his girlfriend's misery, but I was feeling guilty about her being collateral damage, so I feel like this is the best possible outcome. My lie ended up being the truth, well, not exactly, but you know what I mean, so I didn't scar his GF or leave her with permanent damage for no reason. All my interference did was speed up the process of the truth coming to light. In fact, my brother may have been able to hide his cheating forever if not for me. He probably would have just manipulated his GF and or refused to give her phone access forever. She hasn't broken up with him, and I'm honestly not sure if she will. IDK how relevant that is, but it attests to how manipulative he is. He screws people over all the time, but somehow always gets his way anyway. It's honestly infuriating and scary. Anyway, I'm still not going to admit to my brother that I'm behind it all, because there's no point. That would just get me in deeper trouble. I got a comment on my original post that said deny till you die baby, and that's exactly what I'm planning on doing, lol. Life's crazy. The Great Arby's Avalanche. In my high school years I had a typical high school job of fast food worker at Arby's. Most of the job was very easy. And surprisingly fun, unless there was a real *Theod manager that happened to be working that day. Well, this is a story about revenge on a boss/manager. Our store had a real gem female manager that was very out and open about her hating men. She was a lesbian, nothing wrong with that, and made it very clear to all males she absolutely did not matter to her. She would give females extra breaks, allow them to be late, give them free food, etc. The males on the other hand were treated like actual piles of dog dada. The manager would leave us alone during busy times and sit in her car. She would take insane amount of smoke breaks and whine and complain at us when she'd come back and things would be all backed up. Eventually, several months of her garbage attitude and clear hatred got the best of me, and one day I had enough, and I hatched a plan. Arby's, at that time, used to take call-ahead orders on large workplace or party orders. People would call in and say they needed X amount of sandwiches for a luncheon. These call-in orders didn't need verified in any way. Anyone could call these in. I heard a different manager one time explain to someone that if someone were to call in a $300 order and ditch the order, he'd probably get fired for allowing that much beef to get wasted. The roast beef product at Arby's is treated like gold. One day I knew this manager was working with me, and I executed my plan. About halfway through the shift, I used the bathroom and texted a friend that was willing to help me. I simply texted him, "It's go time." My buddy then calls our store and puts in an order for 200 roast beef sandwiches, which at that time would be about $300 to $350. This didn't affect me whatsoever because I was on drive-through that day and didn't need to make food. My manager immediately gets pissed that she had to make all this food and starts the process. After about an hour, she gets finished and goes on a tirade about how stupid everyone at that store is. Over the next 2 hours, it was next to impossible for me to hold in my laughter, as I could tell she was growing very angry and worried that the order was never getting picked up. I started noticing her making phone calls to other managers and upper management people about what the hell to do with 200 roast beef sandwiches. Eventually, it was time for me to clock out and go home. So I did. Over the next several times I worked, I noticed I was not with this idiot manager anymore. In fact, I never saw her ever again. She either quit or was fired. I guess I'll never know.